Einen wunderschönen guten Abend darf ich wünschen. Herzlich willkommen beim Winzertalk. Entschuldigen Sie für die kleine Verspätung. Es gab ein paar technische Schwierigkeiten am anderen Ende der Leitung. Der Verkehr in Bordeaux ist ein bisschen unberechenbar, hat es geheißen zu mir. Aber so ist es nun manchmal. Da meine Gesprächspartnerin kein Deutsch spricht, I will switch now to the English language that you also understand what I'm talking. And yeah, I was really looking forward to this Winzertalk because yeah, we have something special here, sort of someone special here who is representing one of my personal favorite chateaus from Bordeaux, and that's for first that's my part, and now it's your part to introduce yourself. Véronique, welcome. Who are you and what are you doing?
Guten Abend. I'm very sorry because I actually learned a lot of, German for a long time, but I never practiced. So I understand a little bit, but I cannot say a word. So all my apologies for that. Thank you for hosting me on this Winzertalk. It's a great pleasure because Germany is a big market for us, and we know that you have plenty of wine amateurs and Bordeaux amateurs in Germany, and it's very important to us. My name is Véronique Dausse. I'm the general manager for Château Phélan-Ségur. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. So I've been doing I've gone through my 13th harvest in 2022. And well, it's a wonder every day. It's something very special. Because I think the chateau is special, the property is special. You know, so we are located, Château Phélan Ségur is located in Saint-Estèphe. So as you may know, Saint-Estèphe is the most northern village appellation of the Médoc. So just to give you an idea, and that's why I was very late, sorry about that, is that we are approximately 50 minutes north of Bordeaux. But the closer you come to Bordeaux, the more difficult it goes with traffic. And so we are, the chateau, the property, Château Phélan-Ségur, is actually located really in the village of Saint-Estèphe. So we are, let's say, 200, maybe 300 meters away from the church, which is actually the beautiful church, Baroque style, beautiful. And we are facing the river. And you know that this river is very important for us because it's called La Gironde. And it's the gathering of two rivers, one being la Garonne, that flows in Bordeaux, and the other one being la Dordogne. Left bank, it's the left bank of la Garonne and la Gironde. Right bank is the right bank of la Dordogne. So, and in between, you have this beautiful area called l'Entre-deux-Mers. So we are up north. And I must say that Saint-Estèphe is a very beautiful appellation in the sense that when you drive from Bordeaux through Margaux, which is quite a big appellation, or Listrac, Moulis, and then Saint-Julien, Pauillac, we are right north of Pauillac, and the two appellations are just separated by a small creek, a small creek. And when you come to Saint-Estèphe, it becomes to be a little bit hilly, So it's not big mountains, it's not big hills, It's very very smooth, and maybe the highest point of Saint-Estèphe must be something like over 30 meters high, but it really counts. Mm-hmm. And the vineyard, Saint-Estèphe vineyards, which is approximately 1,200 hectares, is organized with what we call terraces, which actually are hills. And these hills were created a million years ago, okay, by the different periods where, there were glaciations and, I don't know the word in English, deglaciations.
Yeah, it's glacier, okay, yeah, I would say the movement of the glacier, something like that. So there's the switch between warm and cold, I would say.
Exactly. When it was getting very cold, very, very cold, the level of the ocean was going down, and we are very close to the ocean. We must be like 80 kilometers south of the ocean, because we are almost on an island we are facing the river, the Gironde River, but on the other side is the Atlantic Ocean. So when it was very cold, million years ago, you know, the level of the ocean would go down, and the water, the rainwater, they still had to go down to the ocean or the river that went down. So there was an erosion, and it created these small hills. On the top of the hills, the big stones that we call gravels remained because they were heavy and big. But the rain, you know, took all the smaller elements down the hills. And so basically you have now, to make it very simple, big gravels on the top of the hills and smaller pieces of stones that can be so fine that it becomes clay at the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
Which means, to make it very simple once again, that we mainly have our Cabernet Sauvignon on the top of the hills, but we also have, and maybe it's not very well known, a lot of Merlot that are grown at the bottom of the hills in terroirs, in soils that are a bit more, that are heavier, cooler. So they are going to warm up in April or May much more slowly than the gravels, and it's better for the Merlot. So Cabernet Sauvignon at the top and the Merlot at the bottom. But we also grow, so which means that in Saint-Estèphe we have more or less the best of both worlds. You have the best of the Cabernet Sauvignon, and I really think that the Médoc, from south to north, is really the temple of the Cabernet Sauvignon on earth. Let's put it that way, on earth. And regarding
no offense to the Californian people.
You know what? No, mais Sébastien, I started actually in the wine business in Napa when I was 19. So I know they are growing beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon. I was actually working in a winery called Clos Duval. And back in the mid-80s and 90s, they were making wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon. So no offense, but the difference may be, just to close the parenthesis, between Napa or California, which I actually love. I'm going back there in January with Cellar Master and my vineyard manager, so that tells you. But I think that we are growing Cabernet Sauvignon that are able to age for a generation. And that makes the difference. Because then I'm going to talk about the balance. But
I think so. Now you really give a wonderful overview about Saint-Estèphe. So compared now, when we think about the styles, because it's for me it was, as a young sommelier, always very confusing to think about all the classifications and so on, so all the law stuff, I would say, but in terms of geology or in terms of terroir, when you try to explain, I would say, the villages, like it's Margaux, Pauillac, Saint-Julien and Saint-Estèphe. What's the difference for you, or what's the typical flavor or typical tasting profile of a typical Saint-Estèphe, or does this not exist anymore? So because it's so different.
That's a very interesting question, because I think there is a difference. There is a real difference, because one of the characteristics, I think, of Saint-Estèphe is their structure, the power, the tannins, the quality of the tannins, which means that when you think Saint-Estèphe, you think about that, like big structured tannic wines. What has really changed over the last years, thanks to very different things I'm going to talk about, is the fact that now you can enjoy a bottle of Saint-Estèphe even when it's young. Young is has to be definite, but this morning at the chateau, I was opening actually 2018 that we are going to taste, and So for us, it's it's a 4-year-old wine, and you know, in Bordeaux, that would sound crazy to say that you are opening a 4-year-old wine, especially in the Grand Cru environment. But you know what? We actually do it, because with such a ripe vintage like 18, I'm telling you, you start a barbecue, you put a beef something, a beef whatever on the barbecue, and you drink some 18. It's heaven. So I think that in the past, maybe the Saint-Estèphe wines could have been considered as maybe a little bit austere or difficult to approach when they were a little bit young, and we were considering that these wines could only be enjoyed when they were 10, 15, 20 years old. It has changed. And you know what? I think that the good thing about Saint-Estèphe is that I don't know what's going on in the world, but frankly speaking, 2022 was strange more than strange, was really disturbing for everybody. But it works in Saint-Estèphe in the sense that even if we are lacking water, and we actually we are missing, we were lacking a lot of water last year in 2022. Just to give you an idea, during a normal year, it rains 900 millimeters, more or less, average in Saint-Estèphe. We had less than 600 millimeters. So we were fighting to get water. We didn't get it. But thanks to the quality of our soils, the vines resisted. Incredible. We were suffocating by it was awful. The 2 first weeks of August, I was in the Médoc, and we were hiding in the houses. It was so hot, or we were in the cars, with the air conditioning blowing like that, and the vineyards was going well. So I think that Saint-Estèphe now, one of the characteristics of Saint-Estèphe is that we are going to keep, obviously, this structure, these tannins, but on top of that, now I must say that the Cabernet Sauvignon that we are growing, because as you know, the Cabernet Sauvignon is I'm not talking about Petit Verdot, but is the latest, not the latest, but it doesn't mature as fast as Merlot. So very often we are harvesting, not in 2022, but we are harvesting Cabernet Sauvignon by mid-October. And in the past, maybe this Cabernet Sauvignon would not reach a full maturity. Now they do reach full maturity. And when I'm talking about the maturity, obviously I'm talking about the phenolic maturity, not the sugar, not the potential alcohol that we always have. But I'm talking about the quality of the tannins, about the polyphenol. And they are ripe. They are not only ripe because of the change of climate, they are ripe also because we are taking care of the vineyards in a different way. Yeah.
It's often, I would say, quite hard to say, but I think there are some regions who are profiting right now from climate change. And I think the left bank also profits in terms of really perfect ripe Cabernet Sauvignon. And we will see how long this will go well. We will see how nobody knows. If you're talking to scientists, we will have the next 30 years will be quite interesting. But for now, I would say the wine growing and I also experienced that in September when I was in Bordeaux in the Grave Pessac-Léognan region, and I talked to the winemakers and they all said, actually 2022 or the 18, 19, also 20 vintage, they are very, very, very happy. They're very, very happy with the qualities, with the quantities as well. But and when you at opening, as you already mentioned, a younger wine, and I personally love, and I personally tend to do that more often, a young Bordeaux, which has 6 years, 4 years, something like that, it is really, really pleasure. And I think it's not only the climate, also I think the style changed. Let's say after the heavy oaked, more would say oversea inspiration wines from the 2000 till 2010. it's now getting more elegant and it's more round and more elegant, and you see it in terms of using other vessels, going away from the barrique, bigger casks, or the amphoras, something like that. So there is much going on in Bordeaux. And what did you change, or how do you adapt winemaking in the past 10 or 15 years when we're switching to that?
Yeah, I think that the first thing we adapted is more viticulture before adapting the winemaking. And viticulture, I think it's not only Phélan-Ségur. I think it's really the Grand Cru of Bordeaux. I think that we are, even in the fields, in the vineyards, where we are much more precise. We don't apply the same recipe everywhere. We are really watching what's going on plot by plot. We have a lot of young people helping us, and it allows us, to find the right solution for each plot. For example, when you think that the vigor is a little bit too high, you will plant some grass or things like that. Especially, I think that there is something which is very important right now in Bordeaux, is that we have realized, we know now that the important part of the vineyard is the soil. And we know that we have to take care of our soils. And obviously, we use big tractors because we have big vineyards. Where when you deal with 70, which is the case of Phélan-Ségur, 70, 80, 90, 100 hectare vineyard, you cannot go with only a horse. I don't know how to do that. So we are using tractors. They are heavy. And when you actually go and treat during the spring, because our job is to produce grapes without endangering the environment, but our job, so we have to protect our grapes. We have also to work on the vines so that they are getting more resistant, but we also have to protect our crop. And when we go with our tractors on the soils and they are wet, the soils, it's not good for them. And we are killing what's alive in the soil. So that's why, for example, we are planting this grass. So it helps prevent the erosion of the wind, for example, but it also helps to, I don't know the word in English, but to make
to get a little bit more looser, so it's a little bit more, that the soil can breathe.
Soil can breathe. It can capture more CO2. It's a whole ecosystem by itself. For example, now we don't apply a de-leafing method to all the vineyard. We are going to say we do de-leafing on this one, we don't do de-leafing on that one. When we put about fertilizer, because we put obviously natural fertilizer, it's also based on what we see in the vineyard. Shall we put fertilizer there or not? What type of fertilizer? And so on and so on. So it's much more precise. Shall we keep cutting, the vines? Or shall we try to let it go and then make, I don't know how to say that. We don't cut.
Yeah. So that they are getting more.
We do like a bridge with the branches, and it regulates by itself. So we don't actually hurt the plant any longer. We are trying plenty of things, but once it's a long term to make our vineyards more resistant. And the other one is about we need to save the crop. For example, in 2021, when it was so wet, it rained, but we had to go and treat. That was the whole point. Now, talking about the winemaking, a lot of things happened, I think, in the last 10 years. Regarding Phélan-Ségur, I'm not sure we changed a lot of the style. Because when you taste a vertical of Phélan, you find the style. We never, I don't know if it's a pity or not, but we never had Robert Parker at the chateau. Never. So I don't know, maybe it's bad because maybe we would have had better marks, rankings, but it never showed. So we were not really influenced by him. And at that time, we already had selected our 6 barrel coopers, whom we still work with. Yeah. We are very loyal, and it's very subtle. And we age our wines, Château Phélan-Ségur, we age it approximately 16 to 18 months in 50% of new oak. I must say that with the 2018 vintage, because it was 2018 is big, is voluptuous, is rich, and so on. We went from 50% of new oak to 55% of new oak. Voilà. But I think that it's not a matter of, new oak is not the devil. It's how you handle it, what kind of barrel you're choosing, what kind of wood you're choosing, how do you do your racking. It's a matter of really complexity. What has changed also at Phélan a lot. First of all, we have a new cellar master who joined. I mean, he's been working at Phélan for 20 years now, but he became the official cellar master 10 years ago. And I think that now we are much more precise in the way we handle each plot. We try to vinify each plot separately when it's possible, when the yield is not too generous. Otherwise, sometimes we have to blend the plots. And we are much more subtle than in the past, maybe, with what is with extractions, for sure. Much more cautious with the temperature, with the pumping over when we do pumping over. And once again, we are taking, we are dealing with much better grapes, so it's easier. Yeah. And then we've been trying in the last 3 years something which is a bit new, because I'm to go back to what you're saying, is there a style of Saint-Estèphe? I'm very worried by the fact that actually the wines could taste all the same. And that's something which, so we decided at Phélan-Ségur to do something a little bit different, which is a lot of work. We are selecting indigenous yeast from the vineyard for not exactly each plot, because it would be too difficult, but from a lot of plots. So like 3 weeks before the harvest, we are going to pick some grapes. We are going to bring these grapes to a lab, and the lab is going to start a fermentation. And the cocktail of millions of yeast is going to be tested, so that we are sure that the yeast that are on the grapes, are on the berries, are able to vinify a bigger lot in good conditions. Yeah. So they bring us back a bottle like that called a cream of yeast, and then we add this yeast in each tank or in each barrel, because we use also some 500-liter barrels to vinify. And so each plot is vinified with its own natural yeast, but they are selected. And that gives even more identity to the wines, more precision, more character. Very important. On top of that, we've decided to stop using sulfur when we harvest. Okay. Obviously, we have to protect our wines, because these wines, they are aimed at aging for years and years and years. So at the end of the day, we are going to add a little bit of sulfur, but we are reducing the level of sulfur. Why do we do that? Not to follow the trend, not to follow it's not because it's trendy to do that. It's because we've made a lot of tests, and we must say that when we lower the quantity of sulfur, actually it helps getting a better definition of aromas. Yeah. So we are doing all these kind of things so that our wines become even more precise, more balanced, to get more purity, more complexity. That's what we are doing.
And I would say I start with tasting, because I don't think you get the wines, but I got them. So it's absolutely no problem. That's it's more important for me. I would like to start with the 19, or should I start with the 18? Because I think 19 was much fresher, cooler, crisp. then 18. So we start with 19. So we only have young vintages. I think we still have some 16 left in our cellar, but only a few bottles. I think so 10 bottles, something like that. I've also some in my personal cellar, but 16 is amazing. 19. What was about 19? Because 19 is, I would say, quite different. Yeah, you know better than me. So what's the characteristics of the vintage of 19 in your chateau?
For me, it's almost not an ideal vintage, but almost. We started the harvest. Actually, it's the same thing for the 18, the same date of the beginning of the harvest. It was on the 24th of September. So it's normal for us, starting the harvest by the 3rd week of September is perfectly all right and perfectly normal. Well, what happened in 19 is that we had a beautiful year. Everything went right, from the flowering, everything was on time from the flowering, and then la véraison in the month of August, everything went well. We had a very dry summer in 19, and I must say that we were also a little bit saved by the fact that we had a big rain. The first, I never remember which date it was, but it's the first week of September. It was the first week of September. And we were a little bit blessed by God, because I think that, if we hadn't had this water, I'm not sure we could have brought these vines or these grapes to full maturity, because we were that close to a very severe hydric stress. Even if in 19, you would walk through the vineyards and you had a feeling of balance and harmony and almost eternity. That's a very strange feeling you have when everything is going well and you are in September and you walk, in the rows, and you have this beautiful Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, and you have all the grapes that are fully ripe, and it's sunny, and it's like a reward. And there's no, there is a real reason why the vine was one of the first thing grown on earth centuries ago, 1,000 years ago. There is something almost religious about a vineyard when it works well. That's what was going on in 19. And once again, we got something like 30 millimeters of water, which means that all the systems started again, all the plant systems started again, and we had this photosynthesis going on, and it allowed the grapes to get the full maturity. What happened in 19 is that there is quite a high level of alcohol. It's 14.5, but you taste that it's rich and ripe, but it's not burning, and it's perfectly balanced. Yeah, and it's quite amazing, because when you want to define 19, for me and for Phélan-Ségur, I think there are two words. There are so many words, but it's powerful and it's fresh.
Yeah, I definitely taste that. I poured it about 1 hour ago in a glass so that it can a little breathe, and I chilled it a little bit earlier before, so that it's now perfectly temperature to 16 degrees Celsius. So it really enhanced the freshness in this wine. And you mentioned before purity, and I think this wine is pure, precise, and everything is there what you need to drink it now, but also to age the wine. You have this wonderful impact of the cassis, of the Cabernet Sauvignon with the cassis, with this eucalyptus style. I would say this minty, but just a hint, not that pronounced thing. It really keeps the freshness, and the Merlot gives the backbone, the flesh, and you really feel and you really taste this kind of completeness in this wine that is so smooth running down, and you are really looking forward to the next sip because it's so mouth-watering, and that's the magical thing for me about Bordeaux, that when we open 19 now, it's so lovely, it's so charming, and there are many wineries also which are now perfectly drinking, and in 10 years or in 15 years, it will be amazing wine, but you can also drink it now. And this is for me, this is a wonderful example of Saint-Estèphe.
I think there is something also to be added about the 19 is the balance, the density. I mean, the concentration, the density, the balance, and the quality of the tannins, because the quality of the tannins is quite incredible. You can feel them because it's a young wine, but they are so tightly knit. They are so velvety. They are so round, and it's what is amazing about the 19 is that, once again, you were saying it. I mean, you can enjoy it now, even if to me, my taste, it's young, but I mean, you can taste the potential. It's to me, it's really one of the best examples of what we can do at Phélan-Ségur and in Saint-Estèphe. Really, it's standing wine.
I always I like to quote Peter Gago from Penfolds. I met him once, and he I think it was the presentation of 15 Penfolds, the whole range, and he said about great wines in the world. For him, a great wine, you can drink it young, you can drink it old, you will always taste the quality. Even if it doesn't show all these aromas, even if it's a little bit more close, but you will feel, hey, that's a special wine, that's something really special, and that's the for me, of course, the definition of quality wines, or high quality wines in the world, that you really taste the quality, and there are few wines who achieve that.
And I think what can be, I really think that this. I mean, it has this incredible texture. You know, the 19 has this incredible texture, and the structure is. When you taste it, the structure. I mean, you can taste the length. You can taste that you have volume, but it's not. No, it's not too big. The tannins are very polished. It has there are layers. It's very long. It's very complex.
Yeah, and it's still not heavy.
No.
Of course, powerful, but it's not heavy. It's so uplifting. I love it.
And you know what? So just to be complete, it's a blend of 56% Cab. It's 42 Merlot, and we added 2% of Cabernet Franc.
Okay. Do you also experiment with the new allowed varieties or something like that, or do you say let's let the other chateaus do them, and then we will see what happens? Or do you have
No, I think we have plenty to do. I mean, you know, we are cultivating mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, so it's almost 60%, not so much. Then we have Merlot, and then we have a bit of Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc. Actually, we have 900 vines of Carmenère, 900 vines of Madère, but they are very young, and I'm not sure we are doing such a good job with them. So I won't talk about them. But I think we have plenty to learn still about our grapes, even Merlot, because, you know, for example, in 2022, the Merlot, they didn't reach this outrageous potential degrees. You know, we have Merlot maximum, I think, with 14.5 potential degrees. So I think we have to learn more on how to adapt these beautiful varietals that are perfectly suited to the wines we love. Before, you know, trying other things. You know, the Cabernet Franc are doing, like in 2022, the Cabernet Franc are gorgeous. You know, they are so fresh and fragrant and lively and refreshing. And even the Petit Verdot. The Petit Verdot in 2020, the Petit Verdot was, you know, with a lot of, you were talking about cassis, we had violet, and I think we can bring those 4 varietals to a point that they can adapt you know. And if one day I have a Merlot, if we have Merlot up to 16% potential alcohol, that's going to be something. But I think we have so many ways to apply in the vineyards, so that not stick to our grapes.
Yeah, and of course, and I think you never have to forget that, and this is often when we talk about climate change and so on, that Bordeaux is situated next to the Atlantic Ocean, which is still quite cool. So it's not like Douro Valley or whatever, or Tuscany, where you have this Mediterranean heat power or something like that. You always have these breezes, I think. You always have a kind of refreshing circulation. It's not that there is no air circulation. So it's always, of course it's getting warmer. We don't need to discuss that, but it's not that I would say that you have to plant now Alicante Boucher because it's so hot there.
No. And you have to remember that Médoc means media aqua, and that we are surrounded by water, and especially in Saint-Estèphe and at Phélan, since I was telling you, we are facing the river, and this river this river, the Gironde River, is a major factor in our microclimate, because during the winter it brings the warmth, the heat from the ocean, because it's once again the ocean is always warmer during the winter, and during the summer it cools down the temperature. But sometimes, you know, it's significant. It can be 2 to 3 degrees, and that actually it's important. It's especially important to so far protect us from the frost. But we are surrounded by water. There is always some wind. So when we get the wind from the west, it's a wet wind, so it brings rain, but that's why also it's complicated to sometimes apply organic, because of this very, very wet climate.
And do you, because when I talked to many winemakers in Bordeaux, they said, yeah, we have to think about going organic farming because of, I would say, because I think that the goal is 2030 should be mainly, I think, the whole sector of agriculture in France. I think there's a kind of agenda about going bio or organic farming. I think I'm not 100% sure what the administration is wants to achieve, but it feels that, especially in Bordeaux, that many producers are going to organic. Not only because of the selling argument that the people want to buy organic wines, but also in terms of as you mentioned before, health of soil, biodiversity, and all to fight climate change. All these small steps.
You know, it's a very delicate subject matter because it's very political and very controversial. But I think that Bordeaux, once again, Bordeaux has this kind of localization where it's wet, it rains. So that's part. I think that people are not necessarily going to organic. People are making a very kind and intelligent, clever, smart farming. It doesn't necessarily, and I'm you know, it's very complicated, Bordeaux, because we are the biggest AOC or AOP or whatever vineyard in France, because we have these big chateaus, because we are selling our wines pretty well. I mean, at least the Grand Cru, which is not necessarily the case for the rest of Bordeaux, which is a pity, because they are doing so well, they are working so much, and unfortunately it's very, very, very difficult for them. But you know, I think we are doing things right, but it's easy to put the shame on us, and very unfair, because once again, you know, our job is to produce grapes. And we are not silly people, we are responsible people, and we are doing what is necessary. So I don't know if it's organic per se, because organic per se doesn't really actually favorize or helps with biodiversity or helps with the soil. The fact is that, you know, I think there is an alternative to organic. You can be organic in the sense that you're not using any chemical, treatments, very heavy chemical treatments. You can use sulfur and copper, but there are also some chemical products that are not so bad. Let's put it that way, when they are very well used. But I think that we are doing other things which goes much further than organic. With, once again, the protection of the soils, for example, and this type of things. And I think that's what we have to do, is to find a way which is protecting the consumer, protecting the environment, and allowing us to produce grapes, so produce wine. Absolutely. And once again, it's maybe not exactly organic, and voilà.
But I think organic is not always sustainable, and as you totally you already said it, that I would say many organic treatments are not the best. And for the environment, when you think about the copper thing, and also I would say I had an discussion in Germany about okay, you are organic, and in 2021 it was quite rainy, and they had to go with their tractor on and on in the vineyard, and in the end, okay, the question is, okay, what's actually better for the organic part, that you're going 7, 8, 9, 10 times with the tractor?
Sebastian, 20 times.
Yeah.
20 times.
Yeah.
20 times with your tractors, 20 times, and when you're treating organic, you have it's called surface treatment. So it's the treatment, the protection disappears as soon as it rains. So you have to protect again. So you have to go into the vineyard again.
Yeah.
So, and then you have, once again, you don't do that on your, it's over the time where we were, treating with
the pumps, with the back pumps.
So we go into with tractors, and it compressed the soils for sure. So it's very.
I know. I think when we are talking about organic or sustainability, we have to think, I would say, about the whole concept of sustainability, and nobody's talking about energy management and all this crazy stuff, which is also the same important. But I think we can talk about this for hours, because it's an endless decision. We still have the 18, and I think we're going back there and tasting them, and I'm looking forward.
To finish on sustainability, there is something which is very important in wine facility is water. We use a lot of water. We use a lot of water for when we rinse the tractors. We use a lot of water for the winemaking, and that's something we are really putting a lot of care on. It's the end of a generation where we would use water without thinking, now everything is regulated. That's for us. It's one of the matters that we are looking the more carefully, I would say.
Yeah.
So how is the 18?
I don't spit it, so it's it's wonderful. No, you really feel that 18 was a warmer vintage. Right. You feel that it was warm. It's more, let's say, luscious. It's more powerful. It's much more spices going on there, and much more this licorice style, and with this powerful fruit backbone, which is this really powerful wine, which is again not heavy, but when you compare it to the 19, it has much broader shoulders. But it's as you said, you open it, you put it on the table on the barbecue, everyone is happy, and that's perfect.
So it's to me it's a really different wine. As you were saying, it's more solar, it's more sunny, it's richer, it's more voluptuous, it's a more, forgive the expression, but it's a wilder wine than the 19, which is more classic in the sense that the 19 has this balance and the 18 is more exuberant. And it's, as you were saying, it's much more complex at the nose and at the mouth right now in terms of aromas. But it goes, it's a lively wine. It has a lot of energy. It goes, the 19 is really built on the length. It's like that. And this one is dancing on the table, and it's rich and yeah, it's a naughty boy. I mean, it's
we have also we get a question from our chat. The question is, it's hard to believe that we can open a 2018 Phélan-Ségur in 2024 yet. Is that really true? I don't really get the question because I would say you can drink this wine for how long would you say you can drink the 18?
The 18?
Yeah, for how long a period? 20, 30 years minimum?
No, but you have the level of acidity. I mean, the pH is around 3.7 or something, or 3.8. I mean, and you have a level of tannins, even if you don't really feel them because they are so ripe, which is quite high. This is a wine that will last, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
But once again, it depends. I mean, it will not fade out, I don't know, before, 30 years. Yeah. But taste, it's different wine, but taste some 90s right now that were very, it's still very lively, very rich, very elegant. And this one, what will happen with the 18, I think, is that it will calm down a little bit. It will be less exuberant. It will, everything is going to come together, and it will last. It will last forever.
Yeah. I think it's the thing about, I think it's the same thing with 9 and 10. I like to compare. You should not compare wineries, vintages with 9 and 10 and 16 and 18. The 18 is the same thing as the 9. It is not, I would say, with the acidic thing what's going on, but it's with the powerness, with the structure, which gives this wine longevity. Mm-hmm. And it has this kind of course, acidity and so on and so on. But in the end, this I would say this little bit, this little fat, what it got in the youngs, this one will carry it for decades. And on the other hand, the 16 and also the 10, I would say, they're also powerful, but I would say they're more on the fresher side, and the acidity will carry this wine. And in the age, it will getting much more elegant and much more, I would say, filigree than the 9 and 18. A different way of aging, but both have amazing aging potential. That would be my personal opinion about that.
But you're right, but 9 and 18 are a bit different, but it's the same environment. It's the same kind of wines, And when you had 9, when it was a young wine, I mean, once again, it was. And first of all, 9 was also the first wine where I think that I was not at the chateau in 9, but I think that people said that they were actually vinifying the vintage and not their terroir, because it was so sunny, so ripe, so rich, and I think that everybody was a little bit overwhelmed by the characteristic of the vintage, and maybe a little bit disturbed at that time. And now when you open a bottle of 2009, there's no other words than 100% pleasure.
Yeah.
It's class, it's everything, but it's 100% pleasure.
Yeah. Absolutely, I absolutely agree. The same person responded to our talk, and he said that he would have guessed that he had to wait till 2030 to drink Phélan-Ségur 18 with pleasure. And I always like to respond to that. It depends which style you like to drink. Exactly. When you like to drink an aged Bordeaux, of course you have to wait. But I personally like also younger Bordeaux because they're so lovely and have this kind of power and switches, but still the elegant way, not this oversea thing which is going too much fruit, too much everything. It's always precise, and this is what I love about younger Bordeaux. Yeah,
I must say that, for example, 18 did not close down.
Yeah.
Compared to 16, or actually 16 when it was born was the most beautiful child. I mean, it was close to perfection. It was something that was very emotional. And I must say that 16 turned into like a brunchy teenager. Sometimes you know the potential of the guy because you saw it from the beginning. But now it's a bit closed down, and it will reopen. And 18 is not going to, I don't think 18 is going to go through this phase of I'm going to close down for 2-3 years and then I'm going to show up again. I think that 18 will remain very open, very voluptuous.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I definitely agree. I would say maybe, of course, there will be some highs and some lows, but it won't be that closed.
But you know, you have other vintages right now that are just astonishing. That they are not maybe as prestigious as 18 and 19, but for example, 17.
Yeah.
Go and get some 70s.
Yeah.
70. Go and get them because they are, first of all, they are not so expensive, so that's a good reason. But that's not the best reason. The best reason is that these wines are, once again, pure pleasure now. They don't have the body, they don't have the structure of the 18 and 19 for sure, but they are very open, they are smooth, they are lively. Once again, they don't have concentration. But they are great wines to drink now. Go and get some 70s.
Yeah. And if you find in some restaurants, go for 11 now, go for 12 now. I had 11 Phélan-Ségur about 10 months ago in a restaurant. It cost me, I think, 100 euros. It was very fairly priced. It was aged 10 years. So everything was good. It came on the table. It performed. It was the kind of classic Bordeaux I love to drink. Yeah, that's the thing about this smaller vintages. And 11 for me wasn't that small. It's a little bit underrated after 9 and 10. 11, good. Of course, it's not that. It's the same thing like 2000 and 2001 or also 04 or some 08s are also quite interesting to drink it now. So, but I 100% agree with the 17. 17 is such an underrated vintage. It's not for aging. It's not for keeping it for 20, 30, 60 years. No. It's for drinking now. And I think you can drink nearly every 17 now, and it will be open and it will be refreshing and it will be a pleasure.
There is a lot of freshness in the 17.
Yeah.
For example, in our 17 at Phélan-Ségur, we have 65. I think it's 64, 65% cab. We have it's 65% cab, 1% Cabernet Franc, so, and the rest in Merlot. So it's freshness and pleasure.
Yeah. That's a wonderful closing sentence, I would say. It was really a nice hour with you. Thank you for all the shared information, for your, I would say, deep inside look about Saint-Estèphe, about the chateau. Thank you for your time. Also, it was a little bit, I would say, a little bit improvised in the end, but I think we managed what we wanted to achieve. To know a little bit more about Phélan-Ségur, about the vintages. Véronique, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sébastien. Thank you to Kölner Weinkeller, and thank you to all your loyal customers and our loyal friends in Germany. Come and see us. It's a beautiful property, really beautiful. Come and stay with us for lunch. We have a great, talented chef. I think quite welcoming. We don't have any hostess or guide, so we actually welcome our guests ourselves. So we don't sometimes we lack a little bit of time, but please come and see us. We love to share our passion with you.
Yeah, I was at your chateau once, and I can really recommend this as well. Make an appointment and really have a look into Phélan-Ségur, and it's absolutely worth seeing, and of course worth drinking.
Merci Sebastian, danke sehr.
Véronique, gerne doch. Merci and good night in Bordeaux.
Thank you. Bye bye. Ciao.
Tschüss. So, für